Okay, so round one of the NRL season is now completed. I will say this: the West Tigers got the bye this weekend. So they've automatically got 2 points. So the West Tigers are not bottom after round one. So there you go, Tigers fans. Bit of positivity there. We've obviously had the two Vegas games, which we covered in a review video last week, but we will cover those results in this whole round one review because it is round one. What I found interesting is that the Broncos, Panthers, and Warriors, who were all finished in the top four last season, lost their opening round games, which I don't think has happened before. So both grand finalists from last season lose, which is very, very interesting. Some very lopsided scores in some of the games. Some games were quite tight, some were very lopsided. So the Sea Eagles obviously beat the Bunnies 36 points to 24 in Vegas. The Roosters beat the Broncos 20 points to 10 in Vegas. We have covered those games in the previous Vegas review. So the games that took place this weekend, the Raiders handsomely handled the Knights away from home. They win 28 points to 12 in Newcastle. Before the season, a lot of people were writing off this Raiders side as not going to make the top eight. And the Knights, can they continue that that form they showed in the second half of last season, where they just went on this lengthy winning streak, one of the teams in form? Back to reality, I think the Knights overachieved a little bit last season. The Raiders, Ricky Stewart's been there for a while as head coach now. And this is a team, I think, possibly in transition, but they put a very good performance in, considering the sin bin controversy in this game. I only watched bits of this game, I will admit, so I haven't watched the whole game, but I did see the first sin binning. We've seen that not given in other games where there's been a tackle or a hit off the ball. Consistency in that area is going to be interesting for the rest of this season. Even in victory, Ricky Stewart still has a chance for a blow-up in a press conference. Now, I'm a Raiders fan, and I maybe it's time to move on from Ricky Stewart. I don't know. We'll have to see how this season plays out. But putting on 28 points on the board, considering last year defensively, the Raiders did have some serious defensive issues. They had the worst for and against of the top eight last season, I believe, with a big minus against the points differential. So to have a positive start is important. The Knights, a bit concerning. Maybe they did overachieve last season, but we'll see how the Knights respond to that opening round defeat. The Warriors blew a 12-point lead to the Sharks. They ended up losing 16 points to 12 in Auckland. These two sides are forming a good little rivalry, I think, looking at recent seasons when they meet in games. Both sides in recent years have blown big leads to the other side. Both sides obviously made the top eight last year. Both got really good young coaches and good coaching setups and play a very fun style to watch. And the Warriors just got their game management wrong, I think. But a very tight game. The result proves that. I think the Sharks are going to be potentially underestimated by other teams this season. I think there's something about the Sharks. They need to just take that next step, and I think beating a top four side from last season on the opening weekend is that good little first step on trying to go up from the bottom half of the top eight to the top half of the top eight. Warriors, though, I don't have any worries about the Warriors. I think they might come back a little bit to the rest of the pack, but very interesting though. Broncos, grand finalists, finished second last year, lose. Warriors finished in the top four and lose. So now we get to the Storm and the Panthers. The Storm win 8-0 at home in Melbourne against the Panthers. That means the Panthers have lost back-to-back games. That means they've lost the World Club Challenge away in Wigan over in the UK. And now they've lost on opening night. I find it very interesting that both grand finalists from last season have lost opening round games. That's very, very interesting. Very tight result on the scoreboard, low scoring, which is generally expected when you've got two of the best teams going head to head that regularly are in the top four, and a titanic struggle, I think, could be a way to describe it. But Panthers losing back-to-back games is a rarity. They've not started this season particularly well, which is interesting. They were I did watch the World Club Challenge. They misfired in that game. I didn't get to watch this game, but to be held to nil on the scoreboard is an un-Panthers-like scoreline. So maybe there are some issues there with some of the player turnover. Again, every season the Panthers, with the salary cap, are having to shed players and bring players through their system. I still think the Panthers will be a top 8 side, but is their premiership winning run coming to an end? People have been saying this after every grand final win. Can they win another one? Can they win 4 in a row? But losing opening round match and the World Cup Challenge back to back there are some worrying signs there. The Eels handsomely handled the Bulldogs 26 points to 8. All Bulldogs, though, I will say this, they did defend very stoutly. They gave everything in defence. Their attack misfired, although in the second half they finally get a couple of tries and their attack started to click. So there is some green shoots there for the Bulldogs, but a lot of errors in the first half and a lack of possession cost them. Eels, I mean, Mitch Moses looks like to have a slight groin strain, which is a concern. But even with Mitch Moses not fully firing, especially for the majority of the game, they put in a very, very confident and comfortable performance, something that was lacking a little bit last year. The Eels sort of lost their way a little bit last year. There were some injuries and suspensions that did disrupt their season, but that is a really positive start for the Eels. Bulldogs, defensively they aimed up, but unfortunately the amount of errors they made in attack really hampered their go forward, and they had no ball and they were just defending for 60 to 70% of the game. It was a hard slog for the Bulldogs, but there are some green shoots there. The Titans getting absolutely hammered by the Dragons, 28 points to 4 at home. This I was not expecting. I was expecting a much closer game. I watched bits of this game yesterday, but the Dragons look good. They look fitter than they ever have in recent seasons. I think Shane Flanagan's definitely improved the fitness of this side. The teamwork looks better. The energy levels look better. The squad hasn't overly changed too much with the Dragons, but fitness, I think, was an area where they were lacking. But they looked a lot fitter. They looked had to have more energy. The Titans, Kieran Foran obviously pulled out with I believe a calf or thigh strain. He missed the game, so that's a bit of a blow. But they were missing a few players, the Titans, but they looked very, very flat. They didn't really look in the contest, and they were easily beaten by the Dragons yesterday. Now, the game I've just watched between the Dolphins and the Cowboys have put a thumping 43-18 win over the Dolphins at Suncorp. I think, last year was a bit of a down season for the Cowboys. They did come home strong towards the end of the season and narrowly missed out in the top 8. They had a disastrous start to last season, whereas the Dolphins had a really good start to last season and then fell away as the season progressed. Role reversal from last season's opening weeks. The Cowboys put in a real solid performance. Carl Felt back into the side as well. Labert starting in the centres, so the younger of the Labert brothers getting a run in the side. He had a very good game. The Dolphins, there were patches where the Dolphins looked good, but the Cowboys just looked that one step faster, that one step quicker, had more energy and a bit more about them. I think the forward pack is going to be an area of concern with the Bromwich brothers and Konfusi just getting older. I wouldn't say the Dolphins are a bad side, but I think depth is going to be their issue this season. They're going to have some depth issues. They just didn't have the same energy levels and also accuracy that the Cowboys had. The Cowboys were far more accurate and really went at this 110 miles an hour. But can the Cowboys actually really kick on from not last season but the season before? They were really promising 2 years ago. Last year had a very poor start to the season, which really hampered any attempts to make the top 8. So there we go. There's the round 1 review. Obviously the West Tigers had the bye this weekend. And very interesting, 3 of the top 4 teams from last season lost this weekend, including both sides who competed in last year's grand final, which I find very interesting. So there were some close games and there was a fair few blowouts, especially the Eels, Bulldogs, Titans, Dragons and Dolphins, Cowboys. They were real blowout scores. The earlier games in the weekend were a bit closer. The Raiders Knights, could you argue that's a blowout? I don't know, but there were some lopsided scores. There were a couple of tight games. And of course, the Vegas games were played at an Origin intensity last weekend. They were fantastic. And I'm looking forward to next year's games in Vegas as well. Hopefully I get my passport sorted out and hopefully I can travel to Las Vegas. But from me for now, thank you very much for watching. Place your thoughts in the comments section below. I will also say this, before anyone goes, where was the Ireland-England match review for the Six Nations? I had a migraine last night and pretty much was flat out in bed, not particularly very well. So I do apologise for not doing a match review. I only watched about 15 minutes of the game. I did see Marcus Smith slot that drop goal, though I was sort of conscious enough for that. So if you're a rugby union fan, don't worry, there will be a Wales-France match review after the game today. But from me, for now, thank you very much for watching. For all my viewers in Australia and New Zealand, thank you for all the support you guys continue to give. And then for all my viewers in the Northern Hemisphere, don't worry, the Six Nations match review will be coming. Ireland cannot win a Grand Slam this year because they've lost narrowly to England, mind. And of course, the big story out the weekend is Italy beating Scotland. So we'll see what Wales can do against the French, but I do fear for the Welsh. I really do. But anyway, for me for now, thank you very much for watching, and I'll have some more content for you guys very, very soon.